you know, at that time, that was so vital, so powerful in the French New Wave. So the Polish element started to slip in and became more of a reality rather than just a vague illusion of what Poland meant.
Well, if we come back to the Polish, and one of the most important influences perhaps in your work and the sensibility behind it is Bruno Schulz, who I think you were introduced to while you were at the Royal College by a fellow student, is that right? In terms of encountering through Andrzej Klimovsky, the Polish.
Yeah, on the heels of the Royal College, yes.
And could you articulate, if it's possible, how Bruno Schulz works in your work? What is this singular seed that he's sort of sown that you have then harvested in numerous different ways, not just in the adaptations, but I think there's a sensibility at work there, isn't there, throughout?
Yeah, but there has to be some secrets.
There do. Maybe another time, for a much more select audience.
No, but the one the example that, not even example, it was when we approached the British Film Institute in 1985 to do another film, they said that they totally distrusted our sense of narrative, so they said we had to attach a literary work to an authentic narrative, and but that we had to attach a writer. So we said that, and we had been reading Bruno Schulz via our friend Andrzej Klimovsky, and so we sort of said, Bruno Schulz, they didn't know who he was, but they said, it's okay, fine, fantastic, push on. And it just sort of happened in the quiet, and that's the way, I guess, things happen sometimes. You slip by.
But there is a sense with Bruno Schulz, isn't there, in his writing, that there is that unlost wonder of childhood and the animate possibility of all objects to become themselves if they're looked at in the right way. That wondrous sense of the full unleashing of the imagination and how he lives within this animate world, which seems to be very much how you then have taken on your relationship to objects. Is that a fair assessment?
But I think in one sense you're wrong, because you say animate, and at that time I think even for a lot of people nobody would look at Bruno Schulz and say that's worth animating. That something could be conceived in animation.
But the idea that for him the objects were animate, if you like.
Animate, yes.
Animate, yeah.
Yeah, I was
sorry,
just in your
animate.
It screamed this was an animation film. I think it was something that we felt could not have been done at that point in our life as a live action film had we achieved as animation.
And that sense really that he writes about in the stories of being a child in this extraordinarily rich aura of the town that he grew up in, which becomes this universe for him, and the sense of these enclosed spaces that he inhabits, the shops and the houses and so on, which then, do they find an echo in the way that you've made these sets and these spaces, these very different kinds of spaces throughout your work, which again are very dense and concentrated with this imaginative possibility?
I think we were hellishly more pragmatic. I think that what we read in Schulz was this were like little epigrams where he would say the poetic ascendance of the everyday, or this notion of the degraded matter, which were things that we thought were like really poster images of creating a zone, working with, well, particularly with puppets, because he talked a lot about mannequins, and I think that, I just think we wanted to give a sort of a metaphysical approach to matter and to puppets that was there in Schulz. Childhood really didn't have that much, I think we're a bit evasive about that. I mean, it's there, but I don't think we play on that too much. I mean, it was more about objects, space, that was really what we were fascinated by. I think also it was a case of not trying to illustrate shorts, but to make a kind of ferocious distillation of sequences into all of what we would say would be animation. Although animation could also presume to be live action, but that it was an invisible boundary line between the two.
And in terms of the film itself, it was, I think, the first film you shot on 35, and it made a huge impact in all sorts of different ways, in different kinds of filmic world. How do you see it now as a kind of threshold into a different kind of working, if it was a threshold as such, or whether it was, as you just said, a thematic focusing of what your priorities were?
Sort of heavy.
I can lighten up.
No, because no. I mean, in the sense that everybody compares everything to crocodiles, in a sense, rather than you're not allowed to really to push on elsewhere. That's very important to keep pushing your own boundary lines. So I think that it means a lot to us, but it gets deformed by the way maybe other people see it. I don't know.
Did it allow you to think about space, perhaps, as you just said, this very important sense of space? If one takes in your work across opera, across set design, across installation, and of course the various film works, there is a sense of this shared space that finds different expression depending on the medium. And perhaps it's this kind of intensely imagined space of possibility, playing with scale, as you've written about in some of the notes accompanying the exhibition. This idea of scale at a small scale and then expanded out on the large screen, for example. That sense of disturbance and disjunction, was that a way that grew out of that early work, in the sense that path became inevitable?
I guess that what's hard now is that when we first proposed the project to the BFI, it's one of those intelligent bluffs that you throw at somebody, that you say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and it's we didn't have a clue. I mean, we had the puppet, the main character, was the only thing that was built for the whole film. By the time we had started to write up the proposal to the BFI, and I think that for us that there's this whole process which you go through every single film that you sort of begin to mount. Is that you write the intelligent bluff in the hope that you'll get the money. When you get the money, then you throw the script away, because you really know it's at that point that you'll really bear down. That the whole process of, and for us the laboratory. The studio is a laboratory where you discover. So you have a lot of hunches, you have a lot of hopes, ideas where you're going to go with the film. And I can assure you that 2/3 of the film, Crocodiles, was invented on the set. That these were things that were discovered as we went along, and as you sort of sunk, it gathered, but also the fact that I was going to say that it's a kind of laboratory situation which you cannot do with 60 people, with a crew of animators, and you say, like, you're doing this, you're doing that, because it would fail instantly. The fact is, a laboratory situation can only happen amongst, say, 1 people, 2 people. And I think that's something that would be paramount. I mean, even in a feature film, you can't stop and suddenly say, we have an idea, a new idea, because you just can't stop a moving body of 44 people as a crew. But in animation, you cannot do that, because nobody's looking.